Have you ever had a problem in life and then, like, the very next day, after the problem's resolved, another one comes up? It's like the whack-a-mole game. Well, if you ever get to meet Abraham in heaven, you can talk to him and he can tell you he knows what that's like. Because right after the famine situation was taken care of in Egypt, and, Abraham left with his family and all his people and his goods, he kind of was embarrassed because he lied about his wife to protect her. He may have felt cowardly, not felt manly in protecting his wife, and also he could have lost his wife. That was a big scare. Also, I'm sure Sarah wasn't too happy with him. So, that was probably a real heated situation. Now he's finally got out of it. He's probably a little distressed, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Now he's about to walk into another problem, but the story reads here, "And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him," that's his nephew, "into the south. And Abram was very rich." Don't let people tell you that rich people don't have problems or that money solves all problems. You'll see that it doesn't. "In cattle and silver and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning." Now, there's a lesson right here that, if you ever feel like you're distant from God or you're not as close to him as you used to be, first of all, you need to figure out who moved in, between you. But the way to get close to God again is to go back to the place where you were last close to him. Think back in your mind, say, "Oh yeah, I was close to God in that situation." Go back to that situation, to that place, or that group of people, or whatever it was that you were doing, that exercise routine, that devotional routine, whatever it was, go back to it. That's where you can start pick up with God again. That's what Abraham's doing. He went the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle. Don't you just hate it when you and your family, maybe you don't, it's not that y'all aren't getting along, but your friends aren't getting along? Well, that's kind of what's going on here. They go home each night and the people are complaining about your family member. It says, "And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in the land, And Abram said unto Lot, Let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, between my herdsmen and thy herdsmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before us? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou wilt depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest into Zoar. Now, Lot was younger, and he was given kind of an easy choice here. He had this big, beautiful land, or some less beautiful land that maybe was closer to wilderness, and Lot was like, I think I'm going to take the nicer one. Now, this is a kind of a situation that Abram could have got himself into, because God called Abram out into a land that he knew not of. He knew that God was going to give him a piece of land out there, but he didn't know what land God was going to give him. This might have been a little hasty of Abram, because he might have been giving away the very land that God had in mind for him. But we're going to see that God didn't let that happen. The story continues. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. Now we know Sodom and Gomorrah they're the epitome of wickedness, right? We know all about it now. But I want you to notice what Lot did here. He didn't go and live in Sodom. He pitched his tent towards Sodom. And often that's what we do nowadays. We might see the world or we might see something wicked, but there's some benefits attached to it. So we get kind of close to it to where we can, have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know what I'm saying? Kind of close to it, but your conscience feels good enough to where, you're not really participating. Yeah, well, that'll work out too good. It says, "And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever." He had him look all 4 points of the compass. He says, I'm going to give you that. We're going to talk more about that in chapter 15. We're going to see something extraordinary. Notice he says, "And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee." Then Abram removed his tent, and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. So we can see Abram's plan worked. Even though this was a trial, he went back to the place where God had last blessed him, there at Bethel, and he worshiped at that tent, at that altar, and he set up his tent there and called upon the name of the Lord. And then a problem came up, the strife between him and his nephew's herdsmen, and he, could have gave away the promised land, but he didn't, and he and his nephew separated, and so they're living in 2 separate places here. But then God makes the promise to Abram. He's like, look, I'm going to give you all of this land as far as you can see on all 4 points of the compass. It's going to be great. You're not even going to be able to number your descendants. Earlier, he said all the world's going to be blessed through you. Actually, all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. We'll notice later on that it's because of the Messiah. And we're going to also notice that it says in Galatians 3:27 through 29 that if you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. We'll see how that all figures in with this land here that's promised to Abraham, because I'm going to tell you right now that this promise applies to you if you're a believer in Jesus. But there we got Genesis 13, a very famous story from antiquity of Abram and Lot and their separation. But we're going to see that they're going to come back together. But before they get back together, there's going to be an ancient World War I that's going to take place. And we're going to talk about that next time we look at Genesis. We will see you next time on the Bible, Bearded and Bald. Leave in the comments your thoughts on this story. What do you think about Lot's character in making that choice for that lush land near Sodom? What do you think about him dwelling near Sodom but not in Sodom? What do you think about Abram just kind of shooting from the hip and just telling Lot to take whichever side looked good to him? What do you think about Abram going back to Bethel and calling on the name of the Lord? Also, what do you think about God's covenant promise to Abram about that land? We're going to see that motif develop more through the chapters in Genesis. I love Genesis. It's my favorite book of the Bible. There's all kinds of hidden gems in it. As you can see in the notes here, there's all kinds of prophecies and stuff we're going to get into also. We'll see you around.